Right. Welcome back. Last time, we went ahead and dealt with the warlords of southern China. Which was basically everything that I... It wasn't the League of Provinces, the Qing Government, and Kuomintang. The Mao Clique was also allied in the previous episode. Well, the episode before that, so number 3. There's also this going on. Yeah. So for now, my efforts mainly involve 2 things. Building up my industry and preparing for a war with the co-prosperity sphere, because if I were to push too much into the Fengtian Government, I would very quickly end up at war with everyone. On, well, many sides, because the legations went ahead and joined the co-prosperity sphere, which is, you know, wonderful. So all the legation cities, yeah. Plus there's also the fact that Japan's at war with Germany, East Asia, so all those little port cities and whatnot. And then there's also the Kingdom of Siam that's in the co-prosperity sphere. Yeah. I just hope the Princely Federation doesn't end up joining the co-prosperity sphere once they're finally done with everything. Within the party, one of the most common means of interfactional bickering comes in newspapers and pamphlets from respective cliques to demonstrate their supposedly better understanding of Chinese society and history. Of the most popular newspapers read by party members are Cheng Gongbo's The Revolutionary Critic, Gu Mengyu's Advance, and Sun Fo's Reconstruction Review. The Revolutionary Critic features a collaboration of writers within the RCA's most radical wings, including Xi Kuntong, Guo Chuntao, and Zhu Deheng. Their writings mainly deal with their desire to see the party reorganized and restructured once more, a more complete reorganization than the 1924 party reshuffle. To them, the revolution must be led by a cadre of revolutionary intellectuals, and the masses must be drawn as they are the true vanguard of the national revolution. The critics' writings deal with the mostly scientific and Marxist terms, with writers like Shen frequently using words such as materialism to dictate their thought processes. Advance shows that Gu and his followers were well read on Marxism, but they rejected the notion that Marxism was scientific or historical. Instead, they call for a similar reorganization expressed by Shen and his followers, but with less radical means. To Gu, there is no need for a class base of the party, as Chinese society has not yet developed into a class society. Instead, the KMT should represent all oppressed peoples. The Reconstruction Review differed in the reorganizationists in that the writers of the review argue that the KMT should not be reorganized, but rather reconstructed. To these writers, the KMT has been tainted since the United Front, and the RCA radicals merely echoed the tenets of Marxism rather than adhering to the orthodox theory of Sun Yat-sen. Furthermore, they also disagree with the PAC, seeing the PAC's populism and flexibility in working with syndicalists as a potential threat to the national revolution's success. Advances a shocking surge in the charts. Actually, I think I know what's happening. I'm being strat-bombed, aren't I? Yeah, okay. Fujian Naval Community. Fujian is home to a thriving naval community, owing to its strategic location and lucrative coastal trade over the years. Fuzhou, for example, is home to major naval institutions such as the Fuzhou Shipping Bureau, Fuzhou Shipping Academy, and Mawai Naval Academy. Even with the legation cities establishing further control over the area, Fujianese often dominate the military and civilian fleet. Further north, The Jiangnan region also competes as a naval and commercial shipping center. Jiangnan Shipyard and Wusong Naval Academy in Shanghai and Jiangnan Naval Academy near Nanjing have provided ships and sailors for the modernizing nation. With the triumph of our previously Fujian-based revolutionaries and the provisional capital being established in Nanjing, it is only natural that both regions dominate our small fleet. That said, however, like most things in the new government, things have quickly divided into factions. Li Zilong, a graduate of Wusong and having studied abroad in the exile period, has rallied a clique of international trained officers and those educated at Whampoa Naval Academy to demand a strictly socialist revolutionary navy. They argue that, with the limited number of officer spots available, they may as well be filled with dedicated revolutionaries, and in any case foreign trained officers are of superior quality. Shen Xiaokun and Cheng Jiliang, both Fujianese and graduates of Jiangnan Naval Academy, have pushed for broader admission of former League personnel like themselves. They dream of a much larger fleet and call for a lenient political rehabilitation program, merely requiring vetting from known KMT loyalists. Given the fluid nature of loyalties during the insurgent period and tight family ties to the region, this would give a substantial advantage to old Mingan leadership. Favor the Fujianese naval clique. I probably should start producing trains in case I actually need them. Even if it's only a small quantity. I should also begin on getting this armored division set up. Could come in handy. Central Naval, okay. The sea and rivers is the lifeblood for much of the 5 provinces. And for our revolution, we depend on access to international aid shipments and regular donations from OCC comprador bourgeoisie magnates. Not magnets. For much of the late Qing era, the Navy was heavily decentralized and placed under regional leadership, with little coordination. This problem was worsened by the diverting of funding away from the fleet during the warlord era, a neglect that hollowed out our naval capabilities. Yet, slowly but surely, this appears to be ready for change. Senior naval officers have proposed setting the groundwork for rebuilding the Chinese fleet to match imperialist powers, a process that may take years, but the basic preparations can begin almost immediately. They have taken over the old Jiangnan Naval Academy site, turning it into a headquarters for the Republic of China Navy. Their zeal and grandiose vision, however, have soon met a match with the senior NRA leadership, who have demanded a total modernization of the fleet under a central command structure. Rather than the Navy being given an equal seat at the table, however, it is clear that their vision involves the subordination of this new fleet to the Army, a fact reinforced by the NRA's plan to create their own naval school under Army jurisdiction. Naval officers have protested that the generals simply do not understand naval affairs, and the Navy should be a separate branch, widening the headache the Military Affairs Commission is now forced to address. A revolution is won by land. Everything else is secondary. Oil. If enough of it gets exported, I can start getting civilian factories from people buying some of this stuff. I'm not getting that many exports, though. Not nearly enough. As the revolution drags on, the party faces a conundrum. The movement, which, for all its divisions, was once concentrated while down on its last legs, has now grown to a critical point. As the National Revolutionary Government swallowed up much of China, more and more non-socialists have been absorbed to the ostensibly Democratic Party. Meanwhile, sensing victory and not wishing to water down the promises they have sacrificed so much for, plenty on the left have grown radicalized. Soon, many fear the party will once again be at one another's throats, like in 1924. The problem has taken shape in the clashing working papers being passed around the legislative yuan. The first has proposed that the central problem of China lies in the poverty of the peasantry, and that they are poor because of their lack of land. Therefore, it calls upon the newly minted Ministry of Agriculture and Labor to implement the long-awaited land reform. Furthermore, the KMT's ranks must also be drawn by the growing number of proletariat in the nation's industrializing cities. The party must therefore support unionization and breaking both foreign and domestic chains. Fittingly, the draft has dedicated itself to the union of peasants and workers. Another, less popular draft seeks to address the growing fierce division in the party state. If the party represents the nation, then it cannot afford to fall back into a state of quasi-civil war like it was at Canton. The paper calls for reconciliation, both with the former KMT rightists and other democratic revolutionaries to build a new representative China. While it also involves the mentions of fulfilling social and economic promises, it also called for moderation and the forgiveness of past transgressions. At the end of the day, the drafts being showcased are just words from a relatively powerless legislature. But with free expression often suppressed, whether de jure or de facto, often these halls are among the few places where free discussion is permitted. The declaration is ultimately passes will demonstrate the strength of various caucuses. To the peasants and workers. Religion teaches men obedience, which is the moral code of slaves. Religion propagates superstitions which hinder the search for truth. These are proclamations often found in Beijing, placed by a resurgent Great Federation of anti-religionists. The Federation is a movement by many Chinese intellectuals, both directly part of the KMT and outside of it. Anti-clericalism in China often has multiple roots. The Christian Church in particular is opposed by the intelligentsia for its perceived backwardness, as well as its association with foreign imperialism. This mutual disdain has attracted socialists, anarchists, and nationalists together in this campaign, protesting, for example, the World Student Christian Federation Conference scheduled to be held at Tsinghua University. At the movement's helm once included many luminaries. Not everyone in the party has an antagonistic relationship with religion, or even Christianity for that matter. The Song family patriarch, Song Jiashu, was a Methodist minister and raised all of his children in the faith. Dr. Sun Yat-sen and Sun Fo converted to the faith as well. Many others find themselves in more complicated situations, living between their Confucian-inspired upbringing and exposure to Christian preaching. Zhang Fakoi and his wife, for example, have loosely affiliated with Roman Catholicism, though have not converted. Cautious and being embroiled in these touchy matters, both Wang Jingwei and Song Qingling have largely refrained from making any statement in public despite their respective pasts, offering only generic statements asking for peace and mutual respect. But oftentimes, as the revolution's claims of social change hit a delicate nerve as China continues to change. The church is subversive. Nice. Let's make you orange. I like using orange for you. By that I mean armored vehicles. Do we even have anyone that has any sort of... Yes, we do. Alignment to the PAC, okay. And there it goes. Well, that's certainly a beginning of the end, dealio. It's pretty much any day now where they're going to go ahead and join the war. How close are they to capitulation now? 8% towards. And they'll capitulate when they have 2% or less. Okay. This exists for wars where a scripted peace event exists, and chances are the event will fire long before. Okay. There's likely a scripted peace event, or it's just something that appears now that they've joined or something. I don't know. Right. So, I've got plenty of military factories now, though I am saving up a couple factories in the hopes of doing something very particular. Specifically starting to work on trucks so I can begin motorizing the supply. It's going to be important. And I can no longer trade with the direct. God. I was trading with them because land access and whatnot. Guess I'll have to do Russia then. Yeah, so everything to the south is core now. Well, practically every bit of land under my control that isn't originally Fengtian land is now under my well, is now core. However, I'm going to have to start dealing with this soon because Fengtian joined the Co-Prosperity Sphere. At the very least, Japan is busy against the Entente and the Reichspakt. So they're nominally aligned to the, well, to Russia and the Internationale. Though France is falling apart quickly, as is Italy. And Spain has not been able to kick the Entente out of Iberia entirely. He also lost Liberia, which is, you know, also great. Yeah. Do I still see their focus tree? Yeah. Soon they'll be at war with me, and they're probably gonna go for the burn to ash strategy. Although there's also the fact that the Princely Federation joined in. Yeah, that's dangerous. That's very dangerous. All of India. I may actually have to defeat them. Possibly? Well, probably not. There are white peace events, after all. But I'm going to need to kick Japan out of China entirely. That includes taking out the legation cities, because they are allied to Japan. They've gone down the right path of their political tree, rather than the center or the left path. Yeah, that's going to take a while to deal with. Probably should get another doctrine. Land doctrine. I'm not fully finished with the doctrines yet. Well, no. Yeah, I probably should finish up too. Oh, come on. Really? Foster? Or Browning. Totalists, of course. Not really much to say other than this. So that's going to be fun to deal with in the east. The west, yeah. Still have to deal with all this. Probably quickly, too. At the very least, so long as I continuously attack, at least in the single province areas, I should be able to stack wipe without too many issues. There is the problem of Siam, though. If I push hard enough, I should be able to convince them to get out of the war quick with the white piece. Which would save my southern flank. At the very least, the Princely Federation cannot invade Burma. At least not yet. Not while this is happening. And they can't complete any foci either, because they're not at peace. So they're just going to be sitting there until I manage to win against Japan. Though they're probably going to bolster various front lines against me with their own troops, which is going to be annoying. Not really much else to say. Yeah. Definitely time to stop here. I'll see you again next time. Until then, bye.